It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films on November 13th, 1998. We got 7 movies to look at today, so we have a lot to get to, so let's just go ahead and jump on into it. And we'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. Let me put it to you this way in terms of the level of the intelligence of this movie. A radio station calls the main characters to tell them they want a vacation to the Bahamas if they could tell them what the capital of Brazil is. They say it's Rio. That is not the capital of Brazil. Should pretty much tell you everything you need to know about this friggin' movie. I mean, this is about as bad as it gets. And I didn't like the first I Know What You Did Last Summer, but at least it was trying. It had Kevin Williamson behind it. He had written the Scream movies. The Scream movies have an existence to be a franchise. This does not. This is pretty much just the exact same movie, except a new assortment of victims that are going to get chopped up, except for Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr., who are back from the first movie. But this time, hey, we got Brandy, we got Mekhi Phifer, we got this guy Matthew Settle, whoever the hell he is. I really don't know who he is. I'm blanking on what I know him from, but like the stupidity levels of this movie are really ridiculous. Like, it just makes no sense whatsoever. There's not any excitement to this. The scares in this are not that exciting. It's the same movie over and over again, and it doesn't do anything different or new or unique to make it stand out or have a purpose. Like I said, Scream has a purpose to exist for more than one movie. They showed you that with the second film. This does not. This is a film that is just all over the place. It's the same movie over again. It's not exciting. It's not intelligent. It's not smart. It's not enjoyable whatsoever. Even if you want to see this just because you know it's a generic slasher movie, there are so many better generic slasher movies than this freaking piece of crap. And I don't like it. I really do not like this movie. I've never liked these I Know What You Did Last Summer movies, but the first one at least had a purpose for existing. This one just exists because the first one was such a big success and they had to make a sequel. Like, they didn't even wait a full year for this movie to come out. That's how bad this movie is. It's just like, it's a mess. It's a mess on so many levels. That's I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is Anthony Hopkins and Brad Pitt in Meet Joe Black. So this is a story about a guy who's celebrating his 65th birthday, played by Anthony Hopkins, and he's visited by Death, played by Brad Pitt, who wants to know what it's like to be human in return for giving Bill extra days of his life. He ends up falling in love for his daughter, played by Claire Forlani, and you can pretty much tell where the rest of it goes from there. What they're not showing you in the trailer is the hilariously overly bad scene where Brad Pitt's character gets hit by a car and he gets hit. It's just the way that scene is shot is just amazing. If you haven't seen that scene, I'd say definitely go look for that. I can tell that the people who wrote for Duckman actually probably wrote that, because no joke, this is co-written by Ron Osborne and Jeff Reno, who wrote for Duckman, the TV series, along with Bo Goldman and Kevin Wade. It's directed by Martin Brest too, who's made some good movies: Son of a Woman, Beverly Hills Cop, Midnight Run. This one, it's hard to really get a grasp on it. I mean, at times it can be really good. There are elements about it that do kind of work. Brad Pitt is okay here, even though he looks very one-note in that commercial I just showed you. And he doesn't really have a whole lot of connection with Claire Forlani overall. Anthony Hopkins is Anthony Hopkins. He's usually going to give a good performance, but it runs on for way too long. A 3-hour movie like this, it needs to keep going. It does not have to be this movie that just... You have no real investment in the characters for that long period of time, and you really struggle to keep up the pace with it. And like I said, there are times when the movie is supposed to be taken really seriously, but you can't help but laugh at your ass off at some of the stupid decisions they make because of it. Specifically, that car scene. But the ending overall, yeah, is pretty bad too. Like, it's a cheap knockoff. It's a cheap ending to try to get a cheap emotional ploy out of you. This is clearly an Oscar bait film and not really a good one. I mean, there's so many other better movies that these people have been involved in. Meet Joe Black definitely is not that. It's not a good movie. It's not a bad movie either. It's just definitely a very, very mixed bag of a film. It just doesn't deliver on everything that they promise that they give you. But yeah, that's Meet Joe Black. But I still like Meet Joe Black over our next movie, and that is Jonathan Taylor Thomas and I'll Be Home for Christmas. One of the worst comedies ever made. I talked about this a while ago when No Hard Feelings came out. That movie, which was a much better mix of that movie and Private Lessons, two of the worst comedies of all time. Somebody saw, the director of that probably saw, No Hard Feelings probably saw those movies and said, you know what, I can make a good movie out of this. I mean, this is something that can be made into a successful film. This film, not so much. The plot is literally a college student who must make it home from his campus in Los Angeles, California, to his family home in Larchmont, New York, in time for Christmas dinner in order to win his father's Porsche. That is literally the plot of the film. How did Jonathan Taylor Thomas go from being the young kid from Home Improvement and Man of the House to sounding like he's still going through puberty as a teenager? I mean, when Macaulay Culkin grew up right before our eyes, from Home Alone to Richie Rich, the transition from kid to teenager didn't look that bad, and that took over 4 years. This is between 3 years. This is 3 years between this movie and Man of the House. And third, man, this trailer is so misleading. Jake wasn't even going to come home for Christmas, as he was trying to convince his girlfriend to go with him to Hawaii at first, before saying, no, screw that, I want to be home with my family for the holidays. So, yeah, nice job of trying to hide that, Disney. Also, Jake's dad had to convince him to come home because he was going to give him the Porsche if he was home by 6 p.m. on Christmas Eve for dinner. But hey, if you showed us that, then you wouldn't have to admit that Jake is kind of a friggin' asshole. And he's a friggin' asshole. This whole movie is a friggin' asshole. And like I've said before, this was back when the Disney live-action movie department was really struggling to keep up and had very rare good films. And this film did not do itself any favors. You can't get invested in these characters whatsoever, especially Jake, because he's just such an arrogant douchebag in this movie all throughout the film. And I'm not saying and I know the saying is assholes finish first, but assholes can be likable too, and Jake is not a likable asshole. I mean, that's 5 times I've had to use the word asshole in this. I mean, this is getting rough, and it also doesn't help that everybody else is really unlikable, from his girlfriend, played by Jessica Biel, even down to the family, who are literally bribing him back home for a frickin' car. And all the characters in here are just obnoxious, they're stupid, they have no remorse to them at all whatsoever. And I get the feeling that this was that movie Christmas with the Cranks and Deck the Halls took a lot of how to make a Christmas movie so against the spirit and the meaning of the holiday season, because a lot of what I hate about those movies is in this film. It's one of the worst Christmas films ever made. It's one of the worst comedies ever made. It tries to make us feel sympathy for the most obnoxious and selfish idiots ever. The comedy's not funny, the movie looks cheap. It's just a mess of a film on so many levels. Like I said, it's one of the worst comedies ever made. Avoid it like the plague. Let's go on to a much better film. Or at least I think it's a much better film. I don't know. I haven't seen this one. So, here's Meryl Streep and Dancing at Lil Nas. If even the announcer can't even say the title of your movie, then you know there's a problem here. But, here's a Meryl Streep movie you probably never even heard of, so chances are the movie ain't that good. This is based off of a play by Brian Friel set in County Donegal in Ulster in the north of Ireland in August of 1936 in the fictional town of Ballybeg, and it's a memory play told from the point of view of the adult Michael Evans, the narrator, as he recounts the suburbs of his aunt's cottage when he was 7 years old. But like I said, I haven't seen the movie, so maybe it's actually not that bad. I've never even heard of this play, quite honestly, so I mean, maybe the play itself is good, but I don't know. Just the fact that they didn't even bother to say the title in that trailer there, just, that's probably not a good sign for this movie going forward. And like I said, it's a Meryl Streep movie you probably never even heard of. The film didn't even do that well with critics. I mean, they'll praise it because Meryl Streep in there. I mean, Meryl Streep could take a shit while sitting on the toilet, and she'd get praised for it. I mean, come on, that's the obvious truth, but yeah, I've got nothing else for you on this one here. I've never seen the movie, so I can't really say if it's any good or not. So let's go ahead and just move on to the next movie, and that is Welcome to Whoop Whoop. Another one I never even heard of, but this is the follow-up for Stephen Elliott after his success with The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, and you have Jonathan Schaech as a con artist who escapes a deal gone wrong in New York and winds up in the Australian outback in a strange town where inhabitants are an oddball collection of misfits. That's pretty much all I know about this one. I've never seen this movie before. I don't know anything about it. I didn't even know it even existed. I didn't know this director who did Priscilla, Queen of the Desert did another film after this. I mean, he probably did, but now I know he did, but I had no idea before I even started looking this up. So I really don't know anything about this movie except the fact that it's based on a novel and that Whoop Whoop is a colloquialism even as I try to say it, after I do look it up on Google, I probably didn't say it right, but it's her referring to an exact location, usually in rural or remote Australia. Again, that's pretty much all I know about the movie. Jonathan Scheck was good at That Thing You Do. That's pretty much all I can remember about him. I don't know if he's good in this. He probably is, but that's really all I know about this film. So that's Welcome to Whoop Whoop. On to the next movie, and that is Hardcore Logo. So this is a Canadian mockumentary centering around the documentary of a once popular punk band called Hardcore Logo, comprising of lead singer Joe Dick, famed temper guitarist Billy Talent, schizophrenic bass player John Oxenberger, and drummer Pipe Fitter. Basically, it's kind of like it looks like a Canadian version of This Is Spinal Tap, and I've seen This Is Spinal Tap many times. Never heard of this movie before. Apparently it was a big success because they made a sequel to this not but 15 years after this movie came out in Canada for the first time. So, I don't know. Like I said, I don't really know too much about it. I've never seen the film, so I don't know if it's any good or not, but it probably is if it's got a sequel to it. But that's Hardcore Logo, so let's go on ahead and move on to the last movie, and that is Thursday. So Thursday centers around a former LA drug dealer who's moved to Houston to make a new life for himself and as a married architect. Everything falls apart when he is suddenly visited by one of his former co-ops who comes carrying heroin. And you have a cast that includes Thomas Jane, Aaron Eckhart, Pauline Porskova, James LaGrosse, Paul Marshall, Michael Jeter, Glenn Plummer, Mickey Rourke, Gary Doonan. It's directed by Skip Woods, who would later become known as a prolific writer for stuff like Swordfish, Hitman, A Good Day to Die Hard, X-Men Origins Wolverine, The A-Team. Notable films. I never said great films, but notable films. As far as the film itself goes, I don't really know too much about it. I've never seen it before. Thomas Jane and Aaron Eckhart, they can be really good actors if you put them in some good stuff, so who knows, maybe this is actually pretty good, but like I said, I haven't seen the film, so I can't really say if it's any good or not, so that is Thursday. Alright, so that's another edition of Time About the Movies and the Books. When we meet next time, we'll go to the pre-Thanksgiving weekend of 1998 with, again, some notable films. The Rugrats movie, the first animated film not from Disney to make over $100 million at the box office domestically. We also have Will Smith and Gene Hackman in Enemy of the State. Woody Allen's latest film, Celebrity, the limited release of Disney Pixar's A Bug's Life, Waking Ned Divine, Central Station, Savior, and Storefront Hitchcock. So 8 movies overall to look at next time, and we will delve into those on the next episode. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, if you want to see more videos like this, hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode. Also, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. Now, coming up after this, shortly after this, is another episode of Time About the Movies Flashback. We're taking a look at the weekend of November 18th, 1988, and we'll have the second episode of that coming up shortly after this video gets updated. So, I'll see you guys in just a little bit for that, but until then, take care.